But there are some barriers, and I'm sure you've all seen them. One is budget. A big one is buy-in, which is why I'm trying to convince you, because you're decision makers, that this is important. A lot of people think it's too time consuming, which is why I like to share with you things like co-schedule and other monitoring tools. And really a lack of understanding, training, and policy, because I will say don't just engage without a policy. Put the policy in place first, no matter how long it takes. Because that's a protection factor. That's a little bit of insurance. Are people always going to follow the policy? Well, I have some good examples where they don't. So the ethics, the pitfalls, risks, and liabilities. So I asked you already how many of you have a policy, and you answered, and I think I would say it was about a quarter of the room. So you have some great opportunities to go back and put policies in place. There was a study done. Are any of you familiar with the Rutledge, Taylor, and Francis group? They do municipal studies, very interesting information. This is a little bit dated, but they haven't done a new study yet. This was done in 2016 of how U.S. municipalities use social media. And they said based on their findings, most cities have integrated social media into daily operations. However, many do not provide effective social media policies to guide such use. This was specifically a city study. I do believe, and I know this is a generalization, that cities tend to adopt these things a little bit more quickly than the smaller municipalities and townships. So I was comfortable using it as an example. So in the survey, does the city have a social media policy? Of them, 81% had said no in 2016, and this was towards the end of 2016, so it's not that far off. That is scary to me, because they're on there. That was the thing, they're on there, but they're not, they didn't have policies. And then they talked a lot about who should be responsible to manage social media, and who is managing social media within your cities. And I thought this was interesting. A lot have said it was just decentralized, or it was with their one central unit, like their PR team, or it was shared. Some had no idea who was managing their social media. That stuns me, because this is a public communication tool in real time. And if you don't know who is posting stuff about your entity, you had better find out. We've talked a lot about the elements and reasons and benefits, and so this just reiterates most of them was to communicate, most of them used to communicate, support mission and objectives, and then I was interesting. I think this data would be very different. The citizen engagement would really change in 2018 as compared to 2016. So I'm looking forward to when they come out with a new survey, because I want to compare that data. When you get a spreadsheet and put all that information in there, which you guys do every day. I'm really terrible at spreadsheets, by the way. It's something my husband does well. So I was like, honey, what formula do I need to figure this answer out? But it's interesting because it's great information to know. So in a social media policy, and again, some of you have them. So for those of you who do, you can use this as a checklist. Do we have this? For those of you who don't, you can use it as a checklist. We need this. So it's relevant to all of you. Acceptable use. You need to address how is it acceptable for us to use this. In other words, we will not post profanity. What a concept. You think that would be known, but it's not. Because if you look at television, even our TV, our primetime TV shows have changed what is and what is not acceptable on daily television. I like to err on the side of no profanity. Just my preference. It's not about personal interest, it's about public interest. What's in the public's interest, not you as the person managing That's the type of thing that goes into an acceptable use policy. And this is really where you do need your solicitors involved. That's really important. And I no longer practice law in the formal sense, so I don't want to give anyone the idea that I do. I maintain my license. I don't carry the liability insurance, so I don't practice in that way. But I often do work with our clients and their solicitors to put together the content, and then the solicitors review it. So it's very important to have that acceptable use statement in your policy. Who can create social media accounts? This is really important, by the way, because a lot of times people say, oh, well, let's let the intern do it. Right? Yeah. The social media page is then connected to their personal account. The intern, the person that's there for a short amount of time. Do not do that. You must have an email address that is associated with your entity and all of your social media platforms. Whether it's manager at, marketing at, social media at, I don't care what you make it. You have to create something that becomes its own entity so that you can manage these tools. It cannot be the intern. It cannot be the elected official who's not going to be there in 2 years. And that goes the same for an organization like this. I've been the president of various nonprofit organizations. It's not for me to create the profiles. It's for me to create it on their behalf with intellectual property that's theirs. Really important. I cannot tell you enough, because so many of us say, oh, my niece, my nephew, my daughter, my son, oh, they're in school, they're going for marketing, they can create it. No. Because when they're gone, you have no control over it. Really, really important. I cannot stress it enough. I can't tell you how many companies that I've had to go in, and it's taken me 4, 5, 6 months to get in touch with the person who doesn't want to be responsive in order for us to take over their social media accounts on the client's behalf. What are the procedures for establishing and overseeing social media? Who's permitted to post? Can it be anybody? Is it just a select few? Is it your PR partner or your marketing partner? Who's doing that? And what's the procedure for responding or not responding to comments? Super important. Like I give you examples all throughout. There's times that you do need to respond. And there's times that it's much better to let someone else respond for you, because it's just too self-serving if your municipality responds. And oftentimes the right thing will happen. And that's one of the beauties of social media. I do find that oftentimes the people will stand up on behalf of what is right. And of course, that's my opinion of what is right. Citizen content conduct. I love this example. Wisconsin University, and if I don't put my glasses on, I can't read it. The University of Wisconsin-Madison social media accounts, and they list them, are produced and maintained by the University Communications at UW-Madison. Who's doing it? They answer that right up front. Links to content and other internet sites should not be construed as an endorsement to the organization entity. It's their little disclosure, right? While UW-Madison does not regularly review content posted to social media sites, it shall have the right to remove any content for any reason. I think that's important. And they go into the list. By submitting content to any of our social media sites, the user understands and acknowledges that this information is available to the public, and it goes on. So many people who work within a government entity are proud to do what they do and often want to share their point of view. That's not wrong. We just want to make it clear that you don't serve everyone's point of view. You serve the public. And so those things are important to have in your policy and how you're going to state it, and you need to state it. What type of employee access are you going to allow? Is it employees? Now, and that's everyone who's paid. Is it just the paid? Is it elected? Who's being restricted? It's important to know these things. Because I can tell you, I still see municipalities who have intern-created social media platforms on a regular basis. The employee access portion of the policy should include, if applicable, that you're monitoring the employee's use of government-owned devices. There's no expectation of privacy. Again, it's very important. This also, I'm getting into employment law here. You have to have your solicitor review these things. Because in the employment law space, which I never practiced in employment law, is very, very specific and constantly changing. So this is something that should be reviewed regularly, just like your bylaws. How often do some of your entities review bylaws? Annually? Biannually? Every 10 years? Do you have bylaws? No bylaws. Okay. Do you have, what do you have that you use in your entities to govern how long somebody can be elected for, or how long they can serve? So it's all governed by state law. So you don't have any, so because I worked in Philadelphia, Philadelphia was not governed by state law. So that's why I'm asking that. So these are the important things that do need to, any of your policies, you have other policies. You have other policies in place? Are there regular review of policies, or just when somebody sees fit to bring it up as a resolution? Either or? You want to have some process in place to review these things, maybe annually or biannually, to know that they are compliant with, in particular, employment law, because it changes so readily. Your employee code of conduct. I really like this. This is very simple. Disclose, protect, and use common sense. Thank you.